Morning. Today I wanted to talk about the Fuji XT4. This for me is an upgrade from the XT2. I definitely didn't want to upgrade to the XT3. I didn't think there was a significant enough jump. There's not a great deal of difference between the XT3 and the XT4, but the differences in my mind were enough to make that jump from the XT2 to the XT4. So what I want to do today is run through some of the advantages and some of the, I guess, the negatives with the XT4. So the first thing I really like, and I had talked about this in my last video, is that with the software on the XT4, now when you save your custom simulations, the white balance is actually saved. It used to be a real pain to have to go and remember what the white balance settings were and have to manually go in and change every time you changed a custom setting. I decided to stick with the XT series because I really like the dials and the tactile feeling that you get compared to some of the other cameras. So it's really great to see that the XT series continues with the shutter speed, the ISO on the top. That makes a big difference to me. The deeper grip, I have pretty big hands, and I found over the last month since I bought the camera that this deeper grip makes a big difference for me. I use the Peak Design clutch, which I put around my wrist, and then that connects to the camera. And I find just walking around and having that deeper grip, I get a little less fatigue in my fingers compared to the XT2. The IBIS makes a big difference. I was surprised at how big a difference it does make. When I'm in low light situations, I continue just through force of habit for many years of taking photographs. I'm always looking for a wall to rest upon or some kind of a counter just to give some stability when I'm at a low shutter speed. With the IBIS, I'm not having to do that anymore, and I'm really quite impressed with the IBIS. What I've also heard is that compared to other IBIS models that Fuji has, that this is quite a lot quieter. I don't even notice the sound of the IBIS, so I'm quite impressed with the IBIS, and I think that if you're moving from an XT2, an XT3 up to an XT4, the IBIS is definitely worth it. The other big change is the battery. Now, at first I was a little bit disappointed because I had an XT2 and an X Pro 2, and I thought I'm going to have to move to another set of batteries. I got one with the camera, obviously, and I picked up a second one. Right now, I don't even have to think about batteries when I'm out for 3 or 4 hours. It's quite liberating not to have to worry about the batteries. The older square ones, they have had a reputation of not lasting very long. So I'm very pleased with the batteries. So one of the other reasons I switched to the XT4 is I really want to explore more video. And so I like the ability to quickly switch between the camera and video mode. The fact that there are 2 different menu settings for both makes it a lot easier. And the other thing which is great is that if you have set up your camera for taking video, that it will remember all of those settings. Similarly, you flick back to your camera and it has all of the settings that you had in place earlier. I haven't really played around with the video that much. It's been a bit of a learning curve going from the XT2 to the XT4 and getting the camera set up for photography just how I like. So I'll probably explore the video a little bit later and do a separate video for you. One of the things that seems to be a big source of debate for the Fuji community is the Flippy screen. Now, I like it. I probably like it for different reasons than others. I don't use the screen at all. What I do is I flip it over and I have the screen on the inside. What this allows me to do is it protects the screen, but it also gives me more of that old camera feeling, you know, combined with the dials that I talked about earlier. And the electronic viewfinder is absolutely fantastic. So I tend to do most of my changes using the electronic viewfinder. So in terms of negatives, one reason I bought the XT4 is because it has Bluetooth and the XT2 doesn't have Bluetooth. I like to be able to record in the EXIF data the location of where I took the photographs, and I thought with the Bluetooth that using the remote cam app that Fuji has, that now all of that information would be saved, similar to when I take photographs with my iPhone. That app is useless. It has always been useless and it continues to be useless. And I don't know if it's user error, but I've tried and tried and tried, and it's so inconsistent. Now, I don't use flash a lot. A couple of days ago, I put the Fuji 500 onto the top of the XT4 to take a couple of photographs. Flash went off a couple of times, and then I found that the XT4 froze, and the only way that I could get around that was to take out the battery. That happened to me, I think it was 3 or 4 times, and I finally gave up. Interestingly enough, I have a couple of Godox flashes. I put those on and I had absolutely no problem with the Godox flashes. This is another product that Fuji's come out with probably 3 or 4 years ago, and I rarely use it. It's not the best flash, and this kind of tips me over the edge in terms of its use. So the other thing that I found was I was playing with the settings, and I bumped up the clarity, which is a new setting in the XT4 compared to the XT2. I do most of my image processing in camera as opposed to post-processing. So I thought I would try that out. I went out to take some photographs, and I found that every time I took a photograph that it was taking probably a second for the photograph to be stored by the camera. And I thought, you know, it's an issue with the camera. I did a little bit of searching, and I found that some other Fuji XT4 users were having similar problems, and that it's probably the processor on the camera is taking a long time to process photos with changes in the clarity. As soon as I put that back down to 0, no problems at all. So I think that this is something I hope Fuji is aware of, and that they will fix in an upcoming firmware update. So I'm really pleased that I picked up the XT4. It's like any purchase. When you initially buy it, you think that's a lot of money, and you start looking at the shortcomings, and you think, oh, maybe I should return it. But after a month of using this, I'm really quite happy with it, and to the extent that I have decided to sell my XT2, which has been, you know, probably my favorite camera of all time. So if you're in the market for a new camera, I definitely recommend the XT4. I think this is a worthy upgrade from the XT2. If you have an XT3 and you're thinking about upgrading to the XT4, I really like the IBIS a lot, and the extended battery life is quite fantastic. I hope that you have enjoyed this video. If you have, please hit the like button. If you enjoy this channel, please subscribe. Thank you very much.